Okay, this is the Gateway Road Landscape Advisory Committee. Calling to order, we have, at 4:06, we have a quorum of 3 out of 5 here. Public posting was done, I'm
Yes,
assuming?
yes.
Okay. We need to go on to the approval of the last minutes. Everybody looked at those?
Yeah, it's online, right? This is what I read, exactly what I read on my computer.
Mhm. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay,
I'll motion to approve them.
okay.
And
Motion, do I have a
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, we have, landscape or land architects here for a presentation today. Thanks for showing up. So, unfortunately, not all our members are here, but we'll listen to your presentation. How's that?
It was, I guess, to review the proposal. Do I need to come to the podium?
Yes, that'd be great, thanks.
I'd made a proposal to Scott and Elt at the Services District for a proposal for services for the Gateway Master Plan, and it was my understanding we're here to pretty much talk about that.
Okay.
And to let you guys know what's before you, I'll give you a little rundown in terms of the way, if you have both those proposals in front of you.
That's in our attachment here, right, Diane?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
One proposal is what we call as the full version, was based on pretty much an overall scope of work that was discussed. Hey, JB. How's it going? When I first met with Scott and with Elle about the best way to approach, really giving it a full professional look at the best way to go from soup to nuts on the master plan, going through programming, inventory analysis, opportunities, constraints, programming, then the design process into the master planning, and that's what that one encompasses. And that one obviously goes beyond the $25,000 that's in the current annual budget. And then the second proposal was crafted to get to a soup to nuts within the framework of that constraints of that budget. So that's what you have before you. And there's pros and cons of going either way with that, and I'd be happy to discuss that in great detail with you guys. Just for one other aspect, if you look at the full version, I believe that one comes in around 58. And that really is, that's really when you look at it, is from a landscape architect standpoint, is what it would take to really do everything that's necessary to create a master plan that would give you, excuse me, full community input with it. And that has a lot to do with a lot of the expenses, creating the graphics and the exhibits necessary to present to get enough people in the public to get their buy-in. The way that was crafted is that we could get through pretty much the programming and inventory stage and the initial designs with the $25,000 budget, and then the final master planning could be done in the next calendar, in the next budget. So that was the way that was crafted, to try to work within the framework of the budget that you have now. The other one was pretty much just to give you what was asked for, and that's the best I can do based on the budget that you have. If you'd like to discuss the nuances between the two, I'd be happy to do so.
Since you're here, JB, I'll let you take back all of it.
Thanks a lot. Bill, in the Exhibit B, that's basically
That's the scope. That's the written scope.
with the scope, and then your additional fees. That proposal then basically is gonna be over 25,000?
If you wanted to go the full gamut, it is. And again, like I said, I tried to structure this that we could get through, you could get pretty much design product at the end of that second task for 25,000. Then it would leave the remaining master plan that could be rolled into the next budget year.
Right.
So that was, I was trying to work within the logistics of that element to try to make that work the best as possible. Again, if the desire is to just take that budget and to get something at the end of the day for it, that's what the other scope is for. And the difference between those is that the tasks have to be, abbreviated. A lot of, like when you go into these public meetings, there's no end limit on those, because those could run 2 or 3 hours, and I've been involved with a lot of those. Sometimes they run long. But if we're doing it within a budget, we're gonna have to put a time limit on those.
Right, well, that's understood, you can't give it away for free. It looked like too, like on the, and just, correct me if I'm wrong, the Exhibit A scope of services is more detailed, and that's why, besides, including, the things from Exhibit C, or no, I'm sorry.
There's two
the fee
Exhibit B,
schedule.
there's 2 Exhibit Bs there, Jerry. Just,
Yeah, I stand corrected.
C is the fee schedule, right?
Right, that's what I'm saying, that
Right.
this, and that's what I meant, the C schedule is kind of rolled into the 58,000.
Well, there's one contract version that's for 58,000. There's another contract version that's for 25.
Right, but on the 25,000, it looks like there's also add-ons in regards to the fee schedule, or am I not reading this?
I'm not sure what you mean by add-ons.
Well, and maybe I stapled this together or something, but I saw like Exhibit B, scope of services,
Right?
okay, which is a condensed version of the Exhibit A scope of services, correct?
No, I'm not sure. Exhibit A is the rate schedule. Exhibit B is the scope of services. Exhibit C is the fee schedule.
All right, well,
And
I'm
there's,
looking at a
and there's,
exhibit-
but there's 2 versions of each of those.
Yeah, well, there's, I'm looking at this Exhibit A, scope of services.
Which one? What's the preface on the very front of that? There's one that'll say full version based on scope, and then there's a knitted version based on budget.
I'm not seeing
Yeah,
that.
I don't think
Yeah.
I have final
No.
working version. I have scope of budget
I don't know.
version.
Yeah, there's 2 versions.
All right, well, maybe I'm confused on how this was to go together. Cause I'm looking at, Exhibit A, scope of services, page 2. Exhibit B, scope of services, 2 or 3, maybe I put this together wrong, and I apologize. Let me, re-sort it out.
One
this-
is dated February 9th,
Oh, no, that's
correct?
not-
Well, they both have the same date. One's gonna say final working version limited to 25, and then the other one is gonna say
Scratch
full
that.
version based on
See
scope.
if I can find this.
And one is, so there's 2 proposals out there.
Looks to me like in this thing, we have 2 of the same 25s.
Do you have this in your
I
thing?
have 2 fee schedules are both 25. Is that what you're showing?
I'll show you what,
Oh, yeah, here
I
it
was
is.
given,
Where?
that was sent to the committee.
It's
Are
the
these
same as
right?
the other one.
This was the
Yeah,
email.
this is different. I don't
And that
have
was
this.
forwarded.
Okay.
Oh, I don't have that either.
Yeah. And I don't have
That's
this one
just
either.
the one contract.
Do you have the C?
Okay.
I don't have the C either.
Exhibit
So
B,
tell me what, you write on there what,
We don't
on there?
have these
Hold on,
two in our
I can
packets.
print it.
This one?
That
This
would
one?
be,
okay,
You think I can help?
yeah.
Hey, Al, can I ask a favor, please? Could you make a couple of copies of something?
We're all,
You don't have this, do you have this, Kevin?
oh, I see what you were saying, Kevin. Exhibit B, scope of
This
services,
page?
and then Exhibit
And
B.
these 2 pages, we don't
Yeah.
have those.
well, there's a page missing here too.
That's a
I got
due,
it, see, I separate. Thank you,
okay, and then
okay?
That's a due. And
There's a
fee
page
schedule.
missing here
B,
on this one,
A,
on that full version.
yeah, this is a due, okay.
Okay, so, yeah, 'cause we only have the 25,000.
So those 2 are duplicates, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See some of these dates?
So we can, somehow get them out of the way.
I have one that's February 9th.
Okay, maybe we're,
Yeah, I don't think that,
maybe we're getting there, Bill.
we're getting there. I understand, there's a lot of
Yeah,
paper
these
here.
are different.
There's a lot of paper here.
When did you send over the?
Actually, everything after exhibit, the second. scope
It's
of
same
service,
email with this
exhibit
one.
B, this page here, everything after that. The yeah, that one there, everything behind that is duplicate.
by
meeting.
this.
Okay,
Okay.
so
Well,
yeah.
She's
then-
she's getting us a
Yeah,
copy.
yeah, that's why we were a deer in the headlights there.
Sorry.
Well, that's okay. That's why I'm
Everybody's
here.
hearing this 58.
That's
it's
why I'm
like-
here.
Yeah, we don't see it.
Like, that's a heck of a deal, I don't see it in here, so I guess we don't have it.
But I guess, to go back to that, one was 25, one was 58, and I understand, the idea of taking, breaking it down into 2 budget years.
Right.
So it's
Because
palatable.
Scott was real clear to me that 25 is all you got this year. So.
Right.
Right.
And I said, well, we can look at it 2 ways. We can either give you what you want for that within that budget, or we can look at the great picture and try to roll that into 2 budget years.
Right.
And that's what I endeavored to do there.
And then the concern though is that, there was a schedule of fees. Okay, is that schedule of,
She's taking pictures.
You talking about that?
I don't know.
That's like a rate schedule? Is that what you're
Yeah,
talking?
for like CDs or DVDs
Yeah, that's what you're talking about there?
and rates for the professional services?
Yeah, that's a fee rate.
Yeah, this is the one. Yeah, Exhibit A fee rate, right? Is this? do you
She's
have
taking,
this?
no, she's
Okay.
making copies of that for us too.
Are these fees
didn't have it either.
above the 25,000?
If you incur expenses into that, yes, they would be.
Well, and that's where I think I'm getting confused, because the principal landscape architect is gonna be working on this project,
That's me.
okay? So where does the contract stop and the additional fees
The-
start?
The purpose of having a rate schedule in there is per se, if I'm working along and we decide to have a change order for additional services,
Okay,
and you want to make it an hourly to go cover something, it'll be based on those rates, because that's
Okay.
already in the agreement.
okay, so this
if you
would
ask
be
me, you know,
a change of scope, or a change of scope of service.
Right, or if you say, can you make me 100 sets of this, and I
Yeah.
have to run copies, those prices would be based on the rate schedule.
Here's everything out of the email.
Thank you. Well, I think that should probably cover us.
Yeah, that's what,
Thank you, that's his copy.
part of our.
I made extras.
Yeah.
So maybe a
If you
different,
ask for those, the 2 pages.
maybe a different question, Jerry, would be, this 25,000,
is what-
Exhibit C professional fees is your cut at the first year. And these are basically lump sums and not to exceed.
I
No,
got
no, no,
this
no.
one.
This one,
And
no.
anything that
It
would be
was,
above that would be a change of scope, or is there anything that would be on that rate schedule that would be above this 25 besides making copies?
This, it was a rate schedule.
Not really, because you've already taken care of it.
Not unless there was an agreement to that
Okay, so
effect.
you don't
Gotcha.
need-
Like if
No.
we needed,
No, it was the one-
principal landscape
I've got
architect
that
to go
one.
to a
Okay,
second
the second
scrap.
page of this
Correct.
one is
Then that would be
missing.
an
It'd be based
You
on
need
those
that
rates,
Yeah,
correct.
Right
Or,
now-
or it's
Second
some
page of this,
determined,
there's page
would you do it for
three,
$100 or
and then
whatever is
this
agreed
is
upon.
in here.
right.
That's just a typical complement in a contract, JB, that if there is anything that's expense related, it's based on a fee schedule that's already in the agreement.
Sure.
This one right here,
Okay, so you need those 2.
yeah. Give this to Kevin. Second page is coming.
I'm still
And the
not
fee
seeing the
Okay.
full version here. Oh, I take that back.
Those are all the
Trying
same.
to
Yep.
5 copies.
Yeah.
So what is it you
Oh, Ally has it.
Yeah, she has it, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I was just being stupid, not finding all that information.
But the exhibit, let's see, let me go back, Bill, the exhibit, exhibit B, scope of services, exhibit A, scope of services. Alright. And that's on the 25. Okay, and then when Ellie comes back, I think what I was remembering in regards to the 58,000, there was an expanded scope in regards to 3.02.
Oh, and the master plan, yes,
Yeah.
it's a dramatic difference in product that you would
Yeah.
get in that
Yeah.
version, correct. And if we wanna speak specifically to what those differences are,
Yeah.
you know, it was, again, it was trying to, when you're looking at 25 spread out throughout that process, and you start to cut the pie down pretty small into that final product. And again, that's what I looked at when you wanted to do, all those, inventory and an assessment and community outreach programs, and then going through the design process, getting into having a master plan that's a lot more broad is available to do that on a larger budget.
Yeah.
So, you get the gist of how that rolls out. So the difference between those two is really clearly put out in 3.02, so you can see that. You're gonna get a lot more, what I'd say is the digital graphics, the 3D graphics, a lot more polish in that regard.
Right.
It would be in a book form. It would also come with, we could help you establish that on a website. We'd create pages that you could put out on your website so people could click to it and get the information. That's actually pretty readily, easily thing to do in the way WordPress is set up nowadays.
I really think because this, we're looking at a project that's gonna influence this community for,
We've
let's
got
just say
two
the next
different.
20 years.
Yeah.
That, even though, it's one of those things, pay me now, pay me later.
I just figured that.
And, yeah, you can do cheaper and you can do it once and push it out, but it's gonna be so broad, if I understand Bill right, that, there's gonna be probably a lot more questions. The more detailed I think we can get it in regards to the plan that we present to people, that, maybe we can come to a better product.
To tell you the truth, JB, it worried me a little bit to try to abbreviate it because in my opinion, I don't think you're getting enough of that buy-in process. And as you know, that's a time-consuming element,
Right.
is to, to really go through that, and, have the charrettes and have, they don't necessarily have to be active workshops, but they need to be information charrettes.
Yeah.
So people can feel like that they've been heard. Because at the end of the day, if somebody gets a master plan that they don't feel like they had any input in, and you lose that buy-in at the end of the day.
Well, even the inventories and the history of like the irrigation system and locations, in talking to Ellie, I know she's done an inventory, and I think she's done it with y'all, Mainscapes, like, it's hard to comprehend how many oak trees there actually are out there. And, I think that's really one of our identities, is the oak trees, and to.
Oh, without question.
Take advantage of that instead of, we had one individual come in here and say, we should remove some of the trees. I think it's just a matter of maintenance, and trimming them right.
Preventative measures for the
Right.
damages that are occurring. You probably need some root pruning and some root barrier in some cases.
Exactly,
Where they're impacting roads, probably more so sidewalks.
yeah,
Full version
yeah.
exhibits.
I owe you, Al, thank you.
Full version exhibit C.
And then the original, we're still working on it.
No, I got yours, the original right here.
Lost around my highlights.
Full version exhibit
Sorry.
D.
No, I'm glad you mentioned something. I thought everybody had this.
Full version exhibit D.
Can I get one of those, Ellie? Can I get one of those, Ellie? Thank you so much.
Yeah, she's still coming with
That wouldn't-
more material.
Yep, that's what I need.
So that's the news
Now, that's the one I don't have, yeah.
Thank you very much for.
So you're not charging us for these extra copies, right, Bill?
She's making.
Not yet, right?
She's making these anyway, not me. I don't get into that. I don't get into that.
Can you-
It costs more to account for that than it does to recoup it anyway. It's not
I
worth
took
it.
this out of your packet, right? Yes.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to move down.
Really,
here. I
JB,
can't
and
hear
projects
that.
like this where you really get into costs is when you're reproducing color displays and stuff. That's usually where you find your cost.
I don't know if you have them or not, I made copies.
Well, thank you.
We already have that.
Now,
Yeah.
if I understood you right, Bill, and then,
See?
I do
Um,
now. For sure, do. I do.
Yeah.
cause I kinda came in on the tail end of that. The, Exhibit B, scope of services. Okay, we go down to 2.03. Oh, okay, continued. 204, right. But then it looks like it kinda changes, that's where we got into the expansion?
Again, when you look at the difference between the abbreviated one and the full one, is that you're only, in the abbreviated one, there's only 2 public meetings. And in the full one, there's a public meeting at every step, and there's 2 in the master plan. And that's another way of trying to keep, the amount of services available within the budget. There is no opportunities and constraints process in that one. It's really more of going out and collecting the data, then coming back and having a working session with Ellen April's group and with your group, and then presenting that to the board. And then that step and that's getting the programming and all the inventory information together. Then we jump into the design process, and it's a 2-step design where you have preliminary and final, and then we go to master planning. In the full version, you have the full, we'll go out here, inventory, assess, make a presentation to you guys about what we found, what we see the issues are, compare them with what your issues are, and then work that into a program. And then we take a 3-step design process where you have schematic, preliminary, and final. And that comes with a little more visual information on our standpoint, because we have a little more time behind us to do that. So that's really the primary differences of going into it. And then on the full version, that process takes a little longer because you're acquiring more information, you're taking the steps to have the public meetings. But at the end of the day, I think you're gonna get more, you get more product, and that's why when you look at 3.02, which is your master plan, that's the difference in the actual product that you get.
Does anybody know how many units are in Gateway?
How many what?
How many, units?
Houses?
Yeah,
1,100 and, now wait a minute.
Can't be all-
You're talking about all of
yeah,
Gateway.
build out?
9,000 something.
Oh, okay, and we're only at, say, give or take 1,100?
Diane should know that.
I think more than that.
How many,
Houses?
yeah, how many ERUs in Gateway?
Boy, it's changing so fast right now
It
because
was
of
over
all the
9,000,
buil-
isn't it?
I'm pretty sure it is. There's so much building going on.
I think it's 3,000 or 4,000 now, I would think.
No, it's overnight.
I
I know it's over 9,000.
Yeah.
Let me go check with Cindy. How
Yeah,
many,
have
how many
Cindy
water bills?
find-
do we
Well,
send
2
out?
things, if they could get us a quick, like, how many units are currently built? And what's the total build out? I mean, I'm just kinda curious, are we halfway through
We're
build
more
out?
than halfway built out,
We are?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But total build out is around 9,000, give or take?
Give or take, I would say, yeah.
Yeah.
Let me just go ask them and I can find out how
Okay.
many residential bills we send out, how many commercial bills.
Oh,
There,
great.
that'll help, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
But I guess what,
I'm thinking that, ERUs, it's more like 4,000. I thought you were talking, it's the difference between population and ERUs.
I know there's over 1,100 in Gateway Greens, 1,184.
oh, wow, just by that, by itself.
And
Just
there's,
at Gateway Greens,
and there's 770.
But see, we've
In
added
Stony
a lot
Brook.
of Pelican because that one piece of Pelican is now Gateway. It's not City of Fort Myers. And there's just a lot, and Hampton Park, they're in phase
so all of
7.
that
There's
has
so
to be
much.
included, yeah.
Yeah, so they're between, just our two, it's just almost 2,000.
You know,
I'll bet we've got 11,000. I'll bet we have.
I have a question.
What
I'm
are you
confused
trying to
here.
do there, JB?
well, the thought is that, we're still a long ways to go from total build out. And maybe, even though we know we have some assets that will be our signature assets, that, we advise the big board that, it's better to take a little bit longer, be more thorough, and like Bill's saying, some of the steps, we have
Exactly.
we have more public input,
Yes,
so that nobody can come back and say, well, nobody told me about this, or,
yes,
have more transparency,
yes.
have more thought, and, do do something that's gonna be long-term. I mean,
Yes,
look how long
that's a good thinking.
before we've done anything major on the roadway except just maintenance.
Right,
Now we're kinda into the new millennium and we know what works, what doesn't work.
right.
Techniques with irrigation have changed, more sustainability ideas instead of something that just looks pretty and it's high maintenance.
I have a couple of
Sure,
questions.
please.
Okay, are you saying you can't do this, what you're supposed to do in the 25,000?
No, make no mistake, whatever charge you guys give me, we'll do it, and we'll do it as agreed upon without question. I'm kind of parroting where JB's already going, that I think you'd be better off if you took more of a protracted approach, because if people lack the sense of buy-in, as an LA and as a professional, I've done enough of these that I tend to worry about creating something that's finished too soon in a community standpoint.
And
We're
I know
just,
the
we're
word
just
super-
talking about the boulevard up in front of Stony Brook right now, right? For the 25,000, we're just,
No,
No,
that's already, I
That's
think,
It's already
so,
done.
yeah, that one.
They're just
what's the
waiting.
25,000 then?
This 25 is to do from, after those 4 medians, south to Daniels.
I don't know if
See,
the Board of
that's-
Supervisors will approve of it.
That's quite a bit for
Yeah.
25,000.
it also
Yeah.
includes Griffin Drive, I believe.
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah. So I mean, it's not much of an investment when you're looking at trying to create something that's gonna be a long-term, asset for all the communities to keep us competitive with all the other new development.
Right.
And the other thing we need to look at, and I spoke with Bill about it, but I didn't know how you folks are looking at this, but the Gateway Daniels Parkway boundary. Out there, Gateway property along Daniels Parkway.
Right.
There's enhancements that need to be done out there as well.
That alone would take 25,000.
That's not county road?
Daniels Parkway is county road, but we maintain our landscaping that's on the inside of the
Yeah.
sidewalk.
Yeah.
Your
Oh,
landscaping's
sure,
on
right.
your
Well,
property,
that's,
right?
yeah, that's our signage, right, basically? Yeah.
Well, it goes down to West Links Drives, which you're
It
talking
goes
about,
all
right?
the way down to JetBlue Park.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have an end monument.
Mhm.
So that's really stretching, the 25.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was all we had
Was that-
for.
is
Well,
that
either
in
did
this
I. I
one?
thought it basically started at the
Is that area
entrances to
not
Gateway and then down.
I'll include it,
That's
but
why I
it's,
asked you if it was for just in
There
Stony
there wouldn't
Brook,
be a
'cause I
whole
can't
lot of
believe
detail
they want
placed
to do
into
that
what
for
we could do with it within the
25,000.
scope, and this
Well,
one
this
without
isn't for
question.
installation now. This is just,
Just the
design.
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 Right.
This is
Right.
design.
Right, okay.
So
Okay,
the-
I have more questions.
Go ahead.
I
I'm
have
sorry.
lots of questions.
Good, good.
Okay, all right, you have preliminary design, 2.01. You have 2,500. What's the difference between that and you're doubling it in the other one? If it's the preliminary design, isn't it
Because
just a
it has-
preliminary design?
Has the twice the product in it, that's why, because it has, more, exhibits, more perspective 3D, digital images that we'll do as part of that design process. Plus, it's taking in more information that was acquired in the, inventory and analysis, segment. It's taking in more information, it's providing more information back. That's why there's a difference in fee, because there's a lot more product being developed.
I'm trying to see which one
Okay.
that is.
All right, I also, can I continue?
Please.
Okay. The final design on one is 3,500, the other one is 8,000.
That's the same. It's
Well, I don't understand why, if it's a design, why it's gonna cost so much different, you're only designing.
It's because of what I'm providing as part of that design. On the other one, you're pretty much getting a plan and some enlargements. On the expanded one, you're getting rendered plans with aerials, with supporting information, and ground 3D perspectives to help the lay people understand what it is you're presenting to do. So you're getting a totally different level of information and graphics from one to the other, and that's why there's a cost difference, because it takes a lot more manpower to produce one versus the other.
Do you know how many people will come to this?
Well,
So that's why I'm questioning.
And again, it's
Understand that.
whichever direction you guys wanna go, we'll take that direction and do it, I mean, without
No,
question.
don't. Nobody will come.
that's the, two-edged sword of being a humble public servant. You may know the answer, which is not necessarily a positive answer, but, you know, the
In other
time you
words,
don't do
he's-
your due diligence is the time that, I mean, we just had this issue down at Stony Brook Village 2 months ago on why there wasn't more transparency on, I think it was some roofing matters or something. And, you know, it was ex post facto, and it's too late, and there's a lot of people still grumbling about it. Instead of leading them into the conversation and say, well, you know, we gave you the opportunity here, we gave you the opportunity there. The product that we're giving you has, I don't know how much more, but at least twice as much information, because it's more detailed, and that's why it's gonna cost more. It's gonna be more explanative.
Yep.
Am I right?
And you'd have more time associated with those outreaches to have workshops, or charrettes, whatever we wanna call them.
I mean, we go through the same thing. We'll have a charrette for, you know, downtown redevelopment, you know, maybe a handful of people.
So
would
this
show up.
is for leeway of things that might occur?
You mean a higher price compared to the
Yeah.
other price? It's more detailed. If you look at the things that they're going to do, yeah, we still end up with, you know, we still end up from point A to point B. It's just that taking the
You're covering the same area, yes.
yeah, we're covering the same area, but this area, you know, we're gonna probably look at more issues than at the cheaper level, because it's still a time and labor thing. Everybody is gonna have different opinions, and that's why we have a board, and that's why we vote on these things. So,
Well, he has to do that to cover himself, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, to.
Is he gonna
that's-
come? Okay. Are you going to present this to the CDD board?
When you say this,
The difference when they said 25,000, now we're going up.
if I need to, sure. Whether that's your decision or theirs, I'd be happy to do what I have to do.
I don't imagine that would be
Whatever you guys
necessary,
want me
would
to
it?
do.
yes,
Yeah,
Would it?
we're strictly advisory.
So,
They want us to do all the,
Well, I understand they're the ones that'll
yeah,
sign
all
the
the
contract, right?
muscle work.
The board.
Right. And I
and,
think,
you know, sometimes they take our advice, sometimes they don't, and
it doesn't matter, I mean, we do the hard work for them, and then they can decide.
right.
The current budget year, when is that in?
September 30th?
And the 25 sitting in there already, right?
Right, we're 6 months to there.
So I mean, you could do you could do the budget this year for the 25, and after September, roll right into the other one.
Municipalities and CDDs have begun this month, here at the end of February, 1st of March, on creating budgets for 216, 217. So everybody's, you know, we're all reading crystal balls, but, you know, we'd have 6 months now with this 25, and it carries over once you get a PO opened up and doing it. But I just think that because this is a long-term project, that it might be better to you know, invest and carry it over into another budget year, have a more detailed, so that things like, when things come up at charrettes, well, why are you doing this? Well, you know, I don't know, how many oak trees do we have? 25,000? 2,000?
About 1,200.
All right, 1,200. I don't think people can comprehend what it takes to manage
To
1,200.
maintain those and
Right.
manage them, right.
And, you know, the issues, they're wonderful. You know, sometimes though, they do create issues. So, you know, things like that, or where our irrigation system is for, you know, it's a 20-year-old system. The technology is advanced, you know, we really need to explore, you know, what can we use from the old system?
And that's
to-
key to your future, is your
I wonder
irrigation
if the
system.
supervisors have thought that far ahead on this.
no, that's fine.
Well, that's kinda, I think, why we're here. I mean, I know they know the problems, but, sometimes until you get into something like this that really, reviews what we have, sometimes their pleas for more help, more, materials, kinda fall on deaf ears, you know? As long as there's not any news at 6,
Yep.
proceed as.
Are you gonna be at the next CDD meeting to explain some of this and?
What's the date on it?
It's always the third, the first and third
It's next
Thursday.
I should. I can be.
I'll
I'll
come
be
with
there.
you if you want me to.
I'm there all
Am I
the
in?
time. I'm there.
It might be helpful if I had maybe even something that was on a board that
You know what?
clearly
To find out
distinguished the
what time
two,
this
that
would be on
kind
the
of
agenda.
addressed what Kathy was talking about. I think that might help.
Because
Yeah,
right
right.
What are
now-
you getting between these two?
Right.
Yeah.
And again, make no mistake, whichever direction you guys put me on, we'll do it. I'm just trying to give you the pros and cons of making whichever decision you guys feel is best.
I don't think we're gonna make it for this upcoming board meeting.
No,
because
won't
we've
be.
already
That's
missed
what
the
I was
deadline.
gonna say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this- the next.
So the next
Okay.
one is,
Is it the 17th?
17th, I believe, of
Okay.
March.
March 17th. Okay, and those start at what time?
they start at 3.
3.
Starts at 3 o'clock. That's gonna be kinda hard for you, isn't it?
And I'll give you, Diane, I'll send you a little bit of a breakdown
I'll be
that
Yeah,
there.
once you
kind
have
of
the-
clearly, just in one page,
We can make
recaps the
That would be
differences
great.
between the two, because I think it'll address some of the concerns that
I'm
I've
anxious to see
seen
what
here.
they have to say about this.
Yeah, I know they're not gonna be thrilled. I've seen.
Correct, oh, you mean the,
I've seen several of them.
the main
I wonder if
entry and the end
they've
cap.
had any idea of what this is gonna cost,
And
because
there's
I'm-
some comments.
I don't think they do.
Maybe we ought to clarify which, I'm understanding it's the end cap, which is,
But at the same
really
time.
seen that
I
outlined
understand
in
what
Which
you're
is
saying,
this.
but I understand how they're
And
gonna
then you have
look
the
at
main
it
entry.
after being
Well,
at
no,
all these
actually, what I'm
meetings
talking
for
about
such a long
is
time. I
this
know.
bit,
Now,
all the way down
within
through
the
there.
last
but you are
month,
talking about that
Yeah.
whole.
With the
there was an
exception
email
of
that went out in
obviously
regards to
the pond and the wetlands here, but there's landscaping all down.
landscape
through there,
advisory information.
All the way down.
Is that yours, or is that
Yes.
part of?
And,
No,
That is
it's
yours.
ours.
Oh, that is yours.
but it basically has the resolution
Oh,
that
I get
governs
that.
for it. Okay.
Not.
I don't have
it
that. Let me
says that
see it.
basically
Oh,
it's
that's
all of
because I
this,
asked Scott
all of this.
about it, because
And
remember you asked
that's
me
there.
about the.
And see, and that-
I need that
I had
outlined in
requested
here as
about-
far
Yes,
as
you
what-
do.
what
Actually-
area- what
So he
area
gave
we're
me the
covering.
Actually, it
resolution,
needs
and
to
I
be,
didn't-
and you're right, that needs to be
Oh,
very
yeah.
clear.
He said he'd get it.
Now, I'm a little
So I
confused on
figured
that,
maybe we
because
could.
There's really
add
nothing in
something
there
to the
outside of the-
resolution
And we don't,
that they
we
could
don't
approve.
maintain, okay,
Does that
you're
make
just
sense?
basically talking about the medians and the bull nose and
Let's-
that.
I can do that at the next meeting.
I was gonna say, let's.
But I
let's
think
save
I'm gonna
that
make
until
something
we-
that clarifies what the scope elements, the area scope elements are.
Just to be sure we have that.
We need to have that as very clear.
Well, I
It's
think
up to
that's a
you.
good, I think that's a good thing for the
I
board to
did get
discuss.
that.
I think that should be on an agenda after we,
Okay,
work with, our master plan. And, you know, and get that in stone on what direction the board wants us, wants to go.
we're having a private conversation, I think we
Oh,
can.
I'm just trying-
We're just a bunch of mavericks up here.
Just
I'm
asking.
sorry, I couldn't get the number of the bills that we send out. Cindy's on a conference call right
That's all
now,
right.
and I just couldn't interrupt. I'm sorry.
That's all right. But we have, you said 11,000?
I don't think we send out that many water bills.
Mm-mm.
No, I mean total.
I would have to make a guess, because I know I'd be wrong.
Well, you can email us that.
Okay, that would probably be the best thing.
All right, so are there any more questions to,
Did I ask?
yes, please, Landscape Architects Incorporated,
Land Architects, Inc.
Land Architects.
Yeah.
JB, I'm sorry, I have to leave.
I'm in the world of keeping it simple,
I have to
JB.
leave early.
So, we
Okay.
need to make a decision, and now we still have a forum, right? Okay, so, I'm sorry, Karen, is there anything real quick?
It's Kathy.
I'm sorry,
But
Kathy?
that's okay, I'll forgive you. I'll answer to anything.
Just not late for dinner, right?
I
Any
think
other-
I answered all the questions. I just was concerned because of the double of the price.
Yeah.
It just seems strange that it's at almost just over the double, instead of just like that 10,000.
And I apologize, I mentioned to Elle when I got here, my son cleaned my truck out yesterday, took my boards out, and I didn't realize, and I could have him here so you could kind of see. And that's kind of the conundrum that created this, is Scott made it very clear to me when we were putting this proposal together that I needed to include a lot of that high-end digital graphics that we do as part of this, because that's what he felt is the reason the board selected our firm in the first place.
Yeah, it is.
Mhm.
And that's really the key, Kathy, is understanding the difference between that level of graphics and your more conventional plan graphics.
Okay.
That's really the difference.
And, you know, just sometimes from past experience, when you try to go cheap on these things, you end up paying more because of all the add-ons, you know, you asked Bill to do an extra presentation, so then all of a
Yeah.
sudden that shows up and you weren't used to it. But
It's
I
like
guess,
buying car parts, it's,
Yeah.
it's more that way, it always is.
Would somebody like to make a motion in regards to which exhibit or game plan that we would propose for the board to follow?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I motion that we do Exhibit B, isn't that the one? That's got
Both
the 58.
exhibits, right?
Pardon?
They're both exhibit Bs.
It is confusing that
So the.
they're identical
one that
proposals
I
in
would-
two
Go ahead,
structures.
help us
Dollar
out,
number.
Kevin.
Use the
Okay.
dollar number.
Okay, I propose that we go to the board with the dollar amount of
58.
$58,850 to be spread over a 2-year period.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
I have one caveat. That'll put him, you'll explain that at the next opportunity for the board to, so they'll show the differences, right?
I'm gonna send an exhibit to Diane that really, and just in one quick page reference, please,
Perfect.
that shows what those differences are.
Perfect.
When you say a 2-year period, are you meaning you're giving a 24-month period for this to happen? Or are you talking about 2 budget cycles, and have you provided a time frame for this project?
We don't have a time frame. We know it's of the essence. We don't have a time frame. You know, he doesn't have a
We could,
contract yet.
I
don't
feel
think.
pretty confident, we could get it done in the second cycle. I don't think it would take more than 2 years to do it I don't think so. I would be shocked if it did,
So September of 17.
easily, yeah.
For a deliverable?
Final out, everything would be done. yeah.
Round figures 18.
So you wouldn't have to go into there's no reason why you'd have to go into a third
Sounds
cycle.
about right.
So it'll be 2 budget cycles.
Right.
To-
So that's really, when you think about it, it's 18 months.
Right.
We gotta
If
get
you,
money for
where we're at now,
Right,
look at
exactly.
18 months, and that should be enough. It really should be enough time.
All right, so. I-
So that was my only discussion.
6 months would worry me.
Okay.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, unanimous.
Thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Wait a minute.
And I will get that back to you.
Is he gonna be at the 21st, 17th?
Pleasure to meet you.
Could he be there? CDD? Is there any chance?
Um,
You'll
I-
send me a summary via email?
Yeah, I'll get
We
that
can
to you,
ask.
if not tomorrow, no later than Thursday. I think that'll help tremendously. Thanks a lot.
Excuse me, Bill, is there any chance you could put in a little time at the March 17th meeting?
I will be here.
You know, just, you'll have, but basically the guts are going to be a pros and cons.
I
Right.
might even just put them on a board right behind me, so everyone can just look
Yeah.
at it.
Thank
Here's
you.
really what I see as the one, and here's the other.
Try to get you
And
on the
again, at the end
agenda.
of the day, whichever direction is chosen, we'll do it.
Right, well, we can only advise. But, you know, Diane, if there's
I
any
hate to
possible way
leave
we
you
could
all.
get
Is
Mr.
that
Prissy,
okay?
like, you know,
I
at
have to be
the top of the agenda
somewhere
to
at
get him in, get
5:30.
him out.
But you're okay.
That'd be
Oh,
appreciated.
yeah, I'm
And that's
fine,
the
yeah.
second,
March
we got
17th, is that?
company
Yes,
that's
sir, 3
leaving
o'clock.
town.
That is
Oh,
on my
okay.
schedule. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Bill,
I'm not gonna go too far without my keys,
Okay, very good, thank you, everybody. All right, thank you, Dolores.
We'll see you next time.
Presentation, we did that. Revised agreement with the landscape architect, with land architects. Was there any questions in regards to that?
I don't know, well, we can't find it.
I thought that was kind of a lawyer thing, to tell you the truth, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Was it this?
Cause we said just go ahead and go with it.
Well, it's,
Just going back 10 minutes. Revised agreement. That's basically what they're looking at. That was revised.
I'm sorry.
I think that is what you were looking at, was the revision, as long as everybody was okay with it. There were changes made to it from the original, from Land Architects.
I'm lost on that, Diane.
The,
What we just talked about
right,
was what the, going from the 25 to the 58,
Oh.
that's what the,
Is that
Well,
what that
that's the
was?
scope of work, not the
Okay.
language, okay.
thank you.
Okay,
but he had to make changes. It went back and forth between Scott and Tony and Land Architects. And this was the final version.
okay, so that was really more of a legal.
Yes.
Check.
So that brings us to the list of contractors.
Nice job, Kevin. Outstanding. That Auburn education. All right, moving right along.
Yeah.
All right, revised list of contractors regarding landscaping bid. And, you know, this is for the 4 medians up at Stony Brook, correct?
Correct.
And, I don't remember seeing that list.
On the last page.
I was looking for that the other day. Oh, okay. Yeah, I missed that piece of the email.
I was speaking to Elle, and one of the things that, I'm trying to get my feet wet on all the projects that are going on right now with the district. One of the things that I was concerned about is we have RFPs coming in for the landscape and irrigation improvements. They're coming in on 2/29. So, I believe the schedule that has been set, I'm not sure who set the schedule. I got the schedule from Tyler, that we need to have a meeting to review the proposals and rank on March 1st. Is that something that you guys are going to be doing, is reviewing the proposals and ranking them?
I would say yes, but I don't know why March first.
Yeah, why
March
wasn't
1st?
it here? No, this meeting.
They have until the 29th.
So I was trying to get involved, get my hands around everybody that's involved with the process. So basically, we're gonna have to get the proposals reviewed and ranked. We've gotta respond to all of those bidders that sent us something. And then we have to negotiate a contract. We're gonna have to have that reviewed by the attorney. And we're gonna have that adopted by the board. The way that I understand that, this is a 2 to 3 week project. The work is to begin on 4/4, and we don't know when it's to be completed by, but the idea was to get this work done before the road project was completed on April 10th. So because we're working with the road project schedule, we've kind of pigeonholed ourselves a little bit as far as the time we've allowed for this work to be done. So that means it's gonna have to be at warp speed, and we're still essentially not going to be able to provide the contractor with enough time in order to meet the road project deadline.
But the deadline, go ahead.
The question is, when they putting in the lights? Because they can't do the landscaping till after the lights.
Right, and that's one thing that we were discussing as far as what the order is, and that's how we want it to roll. We want the lights to be in. So we've gotta get these, whatever contractor you pick, we've gotta get him on board, and he's gonna have to negotiate this, and we're talking about how many plants? He's got 6,000?
Thousands.
Yeah.
There's 6,000 annuals going in those 4 medium, or, you know.
So we,
It's a very extensive, 48 palm trees, 6,000 annuals, not to mention the cocoa palm and the exoros.
so the administrative stuff is gonna have to be very, very quick on this project.
Where did the annuals come in on this? Cause this group was not for annuals.
No, we put them in there.
We did.
Yeah, because we wanted to be consistent with the rest of
You
the
did it when I was
community.
gone.
You can't miss a meeting around here, JP.
You're a sly one, Mr. Grinch.
But when are they putting in the lights?
That I don't know.
Well, we still have to get the landscaper on board, then they'll coordinate their timing with the lights.
Because I know that they can't do the landscaping until the lights are in.
Understood, but you still gotta get the guy on board.
Right, so that's what I'm trying to figure out is who all the players are. We
Right.
gotta get all the players involved and get them coordinated accordingly.
Well, you said their deadline is the 29th, correct?
The proposals are due back to us the 29th.
Okay, is there any way that, you can email us those proposals so that we can, say, look at them and, I don't know, what does everybody's time schedule look like? Tuesday the 1st is because, you know, I'm already committed to other meetings.
Well, we can email them, it's just in my experience, when you're ranking proposals,
Yeah.
it goes more effectively if you're sitting in a room together and you're soundboarding questions off of one another. And, you know, it's gonna be difficult to trail all of your questions and answers via email.
All right, well, how about March 3rd? That's a Thursday. Is that good, bad, or indifferent for the three of us?
That's a board meeting.
That's a board meeting.
That's the board of CDD, unless we do it
Who
before
said
the board.
corner?
Well, don't they know who we are?
Could we, could you do it before then? Could you do it in the morning?
Yeah.
You're the people who have to work. I'm more flexible.
I'm trying to figure out where this schedule came, that it had to be done by the 10th.
That's when the road rotation would be done. And the idea behind that
Huh.
was that,
But that's April 10th, right?
so that when they're coming in with skid
Let's do it
steers,
the following week.
did I say that right?
Yeah.
I'm flexible. I'm glad
And
you
the
can't do it
equipment with
first.
the, you know, plants and everything, they don't mar and scrape up the new asphalt that's gonna be put down on the road.
Yeah.
Because then at least,
Alright.
you can't do anything at the third.
That was the
because
thought
CDD,
process behind
and
that
they don't wanna do
schedule.
it on a Friday.
Kevin, there's how about Monday the 7th? How does that look for this room?
Let me go check.
I'm out of town.
Oh, he's out of town.
All right. How about the 9th? That's really cutting it close.
Yeah.
No, April. They're doing it in April, correct?
It's open till 3 o'clock. You're doing what in April?
No, they want to come by April 10th. They want to install by April 10th.
Right.
Yeah, we've set ourselves up with an impossible deadline.
Yeah, I don't know if you can get that, I don't know, I don't think you can get that done.
No, it's gonna take a while for them to order the plants.
How does March 2nd
Yeah, I mean,
look?
you do this all the time, Kevin,
Boardroom's
and
open
JB,
till
you
3
know how
p.m.
long it takes to get that.
On
the
plants
second?
in.
7th.
Okay, I think we just changed it. Kevin's out of town on the 7th.
Oh, 2nd?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think I can make it up. It's
Okay.
Dr. Seuss's birthday. And I'm dressing up as Cat in the Hat at my complex, and we're having a big eggs, and I'm doing a
Green
cookie
eggs and
exam
ham.
and
I can't-
meeting.
I
and-
can't do it the second.
Oh,
after
good,
that.
thank you.
All right, What
I
works
have
for you there in
plans.
March, Kevin?
Yeah.
I'm gone the whole first, or the 4th through the 11th.
Could we put you, is there any chance, like on the 7th, could we put him on a conference call?
Not unless you get me on a
It's
ski
open
slope.
all day.
I'm on
Seconds was no
vacation.
good.
I think they moved on. They moved on.
So when do you leave?
I leave the 4th, come back.
Okay. So really, we need to do it,
What time on the 4th do you leave?
Early in the morning.
Okay. I'm trying to.
I'm just going,
So
I,
we're-
you
we're
know,
back to
you guys,
March.
you guys can, actually, you can rank them without me, cause I can't make a decision on this either, cause I'm on the bid list.
oh, okay.
So you wanna go back to the 6th or 7th is Monday? You said it's open till 3,
What day?
the Monday,
7th?
7th.
Yes.
It's your schedule. We gotta
Alright.
see if everybody else can come, though.
Yeah, okay, Monday the 7th?
What time?
I still think you're pushing it. You gotta redo irrigation out there, irrigation's a mess, right? It's not just planting plants.
Well, what are
What's
your
your
thoughts if
schedule?
we can't get it in by April 10th?
You be very careful on new asphalt. What would you guys do, Mainscapes?
It's just relatively small material, I mean, 10-foot, Alexander palms, so, I mean, it's not ideal, but I don't think it'll be a huge issue. With the irrigation, I didn't look at the irrigation plans yet, but I'm assuming it's drip we're going back with, that's what Zane was hoping. That would be best.
Yeah, but he said he's part of it, so he can't be in there.
Well, I
but
can't
that's
vote.
true.
He can't-
I
he
can give
can't-
input, but I can't vote.
He can't, actually, whatever, rate him, because that would be conflict of interest.
Right.
I open my big mouth.
So the lights have to go.
No, I have no problem with
Because he knows that.
Yeah, it's
That's
true.
what he said already.
it. It's drip, right?
Yep, go for bubblers for the trees.
Which is coming first?
So I think we can do a lot with the tree dolly.
Pardon me?
Which is coming first? the plants
Well,
or
you can
irrigation?
still,
Um,
tree dolly.
The irrigation,
It's gonna add to the cost.
The lights first though, and then.
lights first, irrigation, and then.
Plants.
When are the
Then-
lights going in, do we know that?
No, that's the other thing,
Can't do anything until the
that's
lights.
the other unknown.
They still got just the one vendor on the lights?
Bentley Electrics, yeah.
Bentley is
Yeah,
doing them.
They're
Bentley.
supposed to be doing them, they're supposed to, that's what I
The
understand.
only one that was, tabled was Griffin.
Yeah.
Remember they wanted more information last evening.
so
Yeah,
these
the
are the
other three.
landscapers that are proposing to do the 4 medians?
Yes.
Okay, well then, but Mainscapes is doing the irrigation?
That's being bid.
No,
No, that's
irrigation's
being
part.
bid out too.
Alright. Cause it sounded like y'all were having a conversation about irrigation.
No, we were just double checking of what type of irrigation is going in there.
Oh. Oh, Mainscapes is one of the bidders, okay.
To be honest with you, I don't see April 10th working, because you gotta put lights in, you don't know when that contractor's gonna be done. And it's not like you're moving big, tall royals out there with big equipment.
We shouldn't need
Just tell
anything
me
with
when.
tracks.
Nah.
Well, there won't be anything now with tracks.
You like the way I said that.
It's whether you guys wanna have a special meeting or not.
Sounds like we need to contact Bentley, find out that time. And then we'll know when the irrigation.
Smile, Kevin.
Huh?
Smile.
And they
Oh,
can-
no, I'm just,
But
this thing's going
but
on.
still, regardless of the lights, we need to get on pace with doing all of our administrative responsibilities with getting this contractor on board,
Yeah.
because he'll still need planning.
How about Wednesday the 2nd? 9 o'clock? I've got a 7:30 meeting.
March 2nd at 9.
Are you good?
Dan's gonna get all her exercise just walking back and forth. The 10,000
yeah, I
steps.
could move a meeting Wednesday morning, but I can't do it in the afternoon.
Yeah. Okay, so 9, if it's open?
Mm-hmm.
Do I have to come dressed up as Kevin?
Yeah. Festive. I think so.
9 o'clock that's good. Is that what
Okay.
you're gonna do?
We're in.
Okay. And what date? March 2nd? Should I block it for like an hour? Or should it be more?
Let's maybe 2, to be
2?
safe.
Okay, 9 to 11. Okay.
I did have a question about the landscape bid, if it's appropriate to ask now. Is that all right?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Well, it asked in there for a price for 1 year of maintenance after installed. So I was just curious if Mainscape were not the contractor selected, would we then have nothing to do with that median for 1 year? And what would happen with the annuals during that time?
Well, they gotta keep them alive for a year.
Just curious.
See how good they really are, right?
Yeah.
No, they would be responsible for those medians for a year.
For a year, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering.
But the question you bring up is very good. If we're dealing with annuals, annuals have maybe maximum 120-day, if we're lucky, life cycle. So what happens when this first round of annuals goes down? Who's,
Which would have to be a budget consideration anyway,
Right.
cause those beds never had annuals, so
Correct.
maybe.
They did not, you said?
no.
And from an irrigation standpoint, I'd have to check with
I think I think the original landscaping there was pop-ups and bubblers on the Royals.
Well, if it's proposed to go back with drip, then it's gonna need to be its own, zone, so maybe that needs, I'm not sure, I haven't looked at the irrigation plans thoroughly, but, that probably needs to be priced in there as part of the install to make them get their own zones if they're not already, so maybe we can bring that up as part of our bid. As an option.
The webs we weave with annuals to deceive. Well, I don't know. There's different philosophies. I know y'all's philosophy is to have annuals on a separate zone. At the same time, if we're going to drip, and it's all new landscaping anyhow in that first year, I don't know if it really is gonna make that much of an issue.
Yeah, no, I think with drip, we can make the annuals work either way. My question was more, I wonder if another contractor is selected other than
Right.
landscape, and those areas are on a zone that also irrigates areas outside the median, that just needs to be taken into account, and then two contractors would have to work together to make that a success.
Right.
Is all.
And it is an added cost with that if we go that way, because the outside contractor, he needs to be paid for his time.
I just wanna clarify, so you're gonna meet, to go over the proposals, to do the ranking on March 2nd, 9 to 11, and then a recommendation will be decided at that time and will be brought to the Board of Supervisors on March 17th?
Yeah, there'll be a ranking, right, yeah.
Okay.
So the 17th will be a busy meeting, cause you'll have Bill there and you'll have the rankings for the
Right.
meeting.
In your cat hat.
I will.
All right, well, thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Oh, then.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure, that's something that needs to be talked about, during the bid process. We can figure out whatever it is, but just wanna bring it up.
I haven't seen the proposal. Is this the proposal that's included?
The plans are in there.
Okay.
I think these are just plans, aren't they?
This is for the,
Well, there's drip on the last one, Kevin,
Oh, okay.
but I'm not, these old eyes don't read that kind of writing that well.
this is a,
Oh, okay.
No, I don't have those big ones,
that's,
but I would imagine those are the same.
that's 'cause I can't.
Yeah, neither can I.
Oh, you can share with me.
What it says, Gateway Landscape, yeah,
This is the north
1, 2,
end.
3, 4.
This is up the north end.
That's another.
Yeah, this is up the other end. This is the north end. This is- these are-
Yeah, right.
I'm making sure I'm not lost.
Right, no, you're good.
I get
You're good.
lost very quickly.
Okay. All right, so I guess we've decided then on March 2nd, 9 a.m.
Yep.
And
We're all
we'll
set.
review the contractors that are bidding.
Okay.
All right, and then follow up with Ellie Harris regarding the product used for nematodes on fields 2, 4, and 5. And I think my biggest question is why aren't we just doing all the fields? They're all interconnected.
Yes, that would be a good thing, since you guys pulled the samples for me.
How you doing?
Hey, good.
My name's Jay Arthurs. I'm the Regional Agronomy Manager for Mainscape here in South Florida. And to answer your question, the reason why we only want to do fields 2, 4, and 5 is because that's where the pressure is right now. That's where we're seeing the activity out there, and where the damage is being caused from the nematodes. Fields 1 and 3 are pretty clean. There's no nematode pressure as of right now on those fields, so we don't feel that it warrants an application at this time.
Why did you propose this product as opposed to something like Curfew?
We have used Curfew in the past out here. We didn't do one in 15. One was done in 14 and 13, and we still have nematode pressure. So we went out into the industry and asked Dr. Billy Crow with the University of Florida, who's a nematode specialist, and this is the product that he recommended from his trials up in Gainesville, seeing great results with it. So this product is a bacteria, and what it does is it coats the roots. So therefore, it starves the nematodes to death. So it reduces the population significantly, and thus not having the roots being fed on and the grass being damaged.
So how many applications are you proposing?
2, and that's based off his recommendations. One is to be done in springtime, which we're still in, and one to be done in the October-November timeframe. You want to get this application down before the temperatures reach 90 degrees, and if it reaches 90 degrees, the bacteria can be killed because of the higher temperature. So we're still in that time frame, so time is of the essence to get this app down before we get into the spring months, April, May, when it starts to reach that 90-degree mark. So that's based off of Dr. Crow's recommendations.
Well, I'm a little confused from the aspect of when you read the label, the intervals. If you're talking spring, let's just say April, or March, whatever. Well, the widest application time frame is 8 weeks. So, let's say we do it. Say you do it next month in March, and then you would, according to the label, should be doing it in May or early part of June. But now you guys are going to wait. Let's see, March is 3, 10, so you're waiting 7 months in between. So don't we lose the effectiveness of what we're trying to put out?
Oh, no, not necessarily. I mean, that's based off of Dr. Crow's recommendations. That's what he's done in his trials up there in Gainesville. So that's the recommendations we're going off, and that's when he's seeing the best results for when those applications need to be applied. So if we get into the April-May timeframe, like I said, it's a bacteria, so once it reaches 90 degrees or plus, it will be killed by the higher temperature. So that's why it needs to be applied in the cooler months.
So just to be clear, the one for 5,000 plus is just one application. It's not a retreat. It doesn't include a retreat that's on the label. Is that correct?
No, it's for the application, one application here in the springtime, and then the second application will be done in the fall when the temperatures are consistently below 90 degrees for an extended period of time.
Well, would this program be better to be started in the fall so that you can stay on track with the label? Well,
I mean, necessarily, I want to do an application right now because we have quite a bit of pressure out there. So I really want to get an application down before we reach that time frame when the temperatures are going to be pretty high right there. We're already seeing some turf damage out there from the nematodes. So like I said, time is of the essence. I want to get this application down, get it applied, and get the roots coated before we have any more damage to the turf grass out there.
Well, you've had damage for the last 5 years with nematodes, so I don't know if 7 months is going to make a difference or not. I mean, that's my concern, because when I see these type of, how they're suggesting to use this product, and I understand what Dr. Crow says, but you're also talking about a time frame here with the temperature. I understand that with temperatures get so high, the bacteria, they just can't compete in the soil when the soil gets that hot. But to me, it's like a lot of other materials that you spray, and then you have a window that you're supposed to follow up with. And to me, we're just putting out 2 separate applications. We're not really getting any synergism with those 2 applications, like a follow-up application, because there's going to be a part of the population that survives, okay, that you're not going to kill them all with this, and then that population is going to continue to grow, and then to me it's almost like starting at square one
Mm-hmm.
again in the fall.
Well, if you're talking about, are you talking about the program here that's listed below?
Correct.
So that's just an example. Okay, if you read up here in the section where it says warm season turf grass, it says for optimal results, make the initial application late winter, early spring, prior to the first new flush of roots. Apply when soil temperatures have reached 60 degrees or above for 3 consecutive days. Applications can be made in the fall prior to dormer or discontinued or a slow period of
Right.
root growth. So, you know, that's just an example. I mean, that could be for cool season grass. You know, we're targeting obviously a warm season grass
Right.
here. So, you know, again, I really want to do the application here in the springtime where we still have the, you know, the time is of the essence. We still have that window there, and then follow up with the second application in the fall months to
What's your
reduce the
rate-
pressures.
yeah, What's your rate gonna be?
35 pounds per acre.
There's not enough time to do the 8-week interval prior to the temperatures getting up, are there?
I mean, not necessarily. You know, it's,
And that's what he's using 35, because that's on the low rate.
yeah, that's the recommendations that he's making.
No, that's the high rate.
No,
It goes 35 to
Using
50
this
pounds per
35
acre.
to 50 pounds, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but then you see the succeeding applications is 17.5 to 50, so there's a wide range
Right.
there for the follow-up application. So if we do 2 applications at the 35-pound rate, we're still in the label guidelines.
Right, of
And
70
based
pounds.
off of his recommendations. I mean, he's a nematode specialist. I've been to seminars when he's talked, and he's put me to sleep. So, but you know, that's the recommendations we're going off from him. That's he's seen up in his labs and in his trials in Gainesville.
Why doesn't the or the curfew work? I mean, that's a widely used product. That
I
that
don't
people
know,
would have
you know what?
succession all the time. It's
I
only
heard
once a
from-
year.
I heard from Gateway Golf Course that they had the same issue. They've used curfew for years, and now they're looking for a new product.
I mean, it could be resistance. I mean, that product's been used throughout the state. There's only 2 companies, I believe, that actually offer that service, and it's been used year after year after year after year. So when
But
this
you guys
product,
have used it here and it hasn't worked for you.
we haven't seen the results that I would expect from that application. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, we still have pressures out there that's damaging levels. I mean, if you go walk fields 4 and 5, you'll see spurge pretty much throughout those fields. So, again,
Well, spurge is usually a sign of overwatering.
well, drought. Spurge is a sign of
And-
drought and nematodes. Yes, sir.
But I mean, you took assays, right?
Yes, we
Yeah,
did.
so he's got the data to show.
Yeah.
Well, I don't deny the fact that you probably got nematodes up the wazoo. I'm just, you know, they're just gonna be there.
Crow is an expert, I mean, that's what he recommended.
Okay. Very good.
Okay,
So you in favor?
yep.
I'm just concerned that, you know, we're not treating everything.
Well, maybe
Because,
we can look at doing that in the fall, treat all 5 fields and do
Yeah.
2 consecutive
because
treatments.
even though you may have taken some samples in certain spots, you know, you're in the neighborhood. And, you know, where there's smoke, there's fire. So, have at it.
Okay. Any other questions?
That's great, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, any new business?
Yes, can we put that on for March 26th? The resolution?
I would really like to wait until the dust settles on this,
Okay.
only from the aspect of, you know, you mean March 17th?
No, I mean March
Oh, on
26th.
our
Next
Yes.
meeting.
Oh,
Right.
absolutely, absolutely, yeah, yeah.
The
What do you want on the next agenda?
discussion of our resolution,
We run it off?
and I'm just gonna also,
We run it off?
I'll get this. Yes. It's after
Yeah.
5.
Oh,
Okay. And just so you know, Rod Senior, okay, once, that's why we got this, you got it probably, is that he wants to know what our responsibilities are, cause he was discussing that at the CDD.
Would you tell me to read the ordinance?
Diane, don't put that in the minute. But
Thank
he,
you.
he did discuss.
See you guys.
All right,
He
yeah,
asked, he wanted to know, and where'd Al go? Okay, Al kinda explained, you know, when things came up, we discussed them. So, that was, right, I mean, that's what he said, am I correct? Thank you. So that when you go to March 17th, just be prepared.
On what we do?
Yeah, he might ask you.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay.
Who's that?
I'm not making
Senior?
it up,
Rod
right?
Senior?
Yeah, he asked, he wanted to know.
Well, the board, approves this committee and they saw all the
Right,
vision
there's a
and scope
resolution and
and
then there's a-
everything, I mean, they approved it, so
But he did ask, that's what he said, and I figured I'd
I think
come and tell
sometimes
you,
they,
Yeah, no problem.
so that they know that he might ask questions. I
And
think it's better to be
We'll
prepared,
be like the Riddler, we'll ask him a question back. Well, did you read your own resolution?
so, okay,
Oops,
thank
did I
you.
throw that on camera?
But anyways, I just figured I'd,
Yeah, no, with our meeting, I think that's a good idea to bring that up. Now, in the resolution, though, it does say, now, they're not voting members, but, you know, you can have other advisory people on that board.
but maybe we can have it changed so that the alternate could be a voting member if needed for,
Well, that's what an alternate is, yeah.
right, so that's what I mean. So that's why, it's the,
Right, so,
resolution would be on the 26th, that's when we're gonna discuss it. You can go home and go to bed now.
yeah. Well, if you could just send that out one more time.
the resolution,
Well, the resolution and the rules and
scope, all
bylaws,
that,
yeah.
okay, all
Just so
right,
that everybody has it handy again,
Okay.
if we missed it.
Okay.
I got it, Scott, so,
is that 2015-05?
it's right here,
Correct.
this is it.
Okay, I'm just in the number though,
It
2000.
says first draft, January 2015.
He gave me two, one to give to the new member, so,
Did she not show up today?
No,
Now, who was this?
this is my new boss,
This is the new Scott.
yes.
Oh, okay.
she
Right.
didn't introduce herself.
Did she or did she
No,
not?
she
Oh, no.
didn't, did she?
No, that's April, right?
April
April
White, she, came from a Estero Fire Department. She's worked in small government, her background is finance. She really has a handle on the big picture. I mean, you can understand her, see her questioning, and she doesn't have engineering background like Scott did, but she'll probably rely heavily on Tetra Tech, but she's got it figured out.
Okay.
I
help.
motion
I
to
gotta
adjourn.
Yeah, second, I gotta go.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking here.
Yeah, thanks everybody, I appreciate
Thank you.
it. You guys are killing me with annuals.
Thank you, Dawn. Sorry about
Just
my
so you
question.
No,
know,